Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. We have a special episode tonight. It is part one of our day one NFL mock draft. With me, my good friend, Mr. Mike Zappy, my co-host out in San Antonio, Texas. How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, but it is Christmas time in the NFL. We have the 2023 NFL draft we are so close, just over 24 hours to go. Well, I will say closer to 48 hours. I am excited, man, because we're going to see 259 players' lives change this weekend as each team goes and calls that player's name up. And, and as a fan, it's like, who are our teams going to get, who we want them to get, and who they actually end up with. I love this time of year.
And you know what, Zap, I actually find that to be a good starting point, because then we're going to get to the big elephant in the room. Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. We're going to speak on that in a few moments. But before we go any further and actually jump into that, and along with part one of this draft, Zappy, tell me, who are the three potential players that you are hoping to land in round one, like hypothetical? Give me three names that you would be happy to have any of those three.
So, obviously, I look at my Dallas Cowboys and I ask myself, what are our biggest needs going into this draft? And really, the biggest ones I can say right off the back are going to be interior lineman, left guard. We need a running back, as we have seen the departure of Ezekiel Elliott. We need one technique. We need a tight end. So I look at those four positions and I say to myself, well, what's the reality of which players I think can be there? When I look at the one technique, Jalen Carter's not going to fall to us, but that'd be someone I would want. I think it's going to be between Bijan Robinson. If he's there, it would be a dream scenario for Dallas. Obviously we saw it happen with CeeDee Lamb when he dropped down to 17. This is one of those situations where we've seen the running back position a little devalued, and talks about Bijan dropping. The next player I would want to see is, of course, one from Notre Dame, and that's Michael Mayer.
Tight end university.
That's right. And while I admire and I like and I'm excited for Jake Ferguson, I still believe that Dallas needs another tight end. And I believe Michael Mayer actually provides something else. And he's more of that blanket, that guy that whenever things go wrong, Jason Witten. That's what Michael Mayer reminds me of.
Yes.
So, and then the other one, it would be, quite honestly, I'm going to say Osiris out of Florida, the left guard. And, it's funny because I'm sure we have a lot of the similar.
Because we're picking right next to each other,
exactly.
barring a trade up.
Yeah, exactly. And, and I look to myself, also, if there's a tackle that drops, if Darnell Wright is there, I wouldn't mind Darnell Wright either. So, but yeah, it's between those players, really.
At the sake of time, which is kind of funny that we agree on some of this, if we're going running back, and the reason I even bring up running back is because of the non-ideal situation for what Saquon Barkley is going through right now. You made a great point to me. I want to add this to the viewers. Saquon Barkley going into this draft has not signed his franchise tender for the New York Football Giants. And while I don't think he'll be traded on draft day, I'm even wearing the man's jersey right now, it is something that one would think of. Zappy here made a great point off the air that I actually share his sentiments after thinking it through. This year, he's making roughly about 10.1 mil. I believe next year, with that franchise number going up, should they franchise him 2 years in a row because of the need.
12 million next year.
Yes. So basically the point is he would be receiving 22 million. That is guaranteed money, which is better than what he would be making per year, averaged out right now, based on where the market has plummeted for running backs. So that would mean Bijan Robinson. I don't think the Giants are drafting him. Just want to make that clear. That hypothetically would be a solution. Osiris Torrance out of the University of Florida. Guard is a position of need for the New York Football Giants. He would be a solid pick. My fantasy, which is not going to happen, would be trading up and getting Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. Zappy and I both share the sentiments that young man will not get past the Pittsburgh Steelers should he fall that far. But I think he's potentially a top 10 pick. Third player, playing it safe, and I don't think the Giants are going this route because I don't think the Giants are all that endeared with this wide receiver class. Jordan Addison, that would be a potential player that I could see the Giants going for at pick 25. Two guys that I would have wanted, say about a month and a half ago before we acquired Darren Waller, would have been Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame, as well as Darnell Washington out of UGA. But because of the fact that the Giants have addressed getting a potential superstar tight end, barring health, he has been injured lately, he is a top 5 fantasy option and just a top 5 tight end in general in Darren Waller. Plus, we are pretty deep at that position with Lawrence Cager as well as Daniel Bellinger.
Wow. Imagine a scenario where we do draft Michael Mayer and the Darren Waller trade comes back and bites you, and you guys watch the birth and the growth of a great one while you had to suffer. I mean, it's not so much suffering because you didn't give up too much, but you know what I mean? Like you have the opportunity to get him. So that's what makes this draft so interesting.
Yeah, there's so many what ifs and what the other guys are going to do. I will say this. I'm happy with the Darren Waller acquisition. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's going to really have a nice year for the New York Giants. And I also think that because of his presence and because of the kind of offense that Mike Kafka and Brian Dable are implementing, I don't necessarily think they're going to value a wide receiver over getting someone to fix that interior or to potentially play corner opposite of veteran Adoree Jackson. Before we start our draft, I do want to speak on the big elephant in the room. Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet after months and weeks of deliberation on both parties, 48 hours, that's about 72 hours really, before the draft. What they did at the meat and the crust of this trade was the New York Jets and Green Bay Packers basically flopped positions. Swapped and flopped. So basically, Green Bay now has the 13th overall pick in round 1, whereas the New York Jets have pick 15. New York Jets get their man, add him to a team that has a very good running back in Bryce Hall, pretty good offensive line, arguably already the best corner in the NFL in Sauce Gardner, and an aspiring good motivational head coach in Robert Saleh. All I'm going to say is this. I saw it amongst Giant fans and Jet fans alike, friends of mine on social media. This is to win a Super Bowl. If the New York Jets, during the year or 2, maybe 3, that Aaron Rodgers plays, if they do not win a Super Bowl, it is a fail. And I said this to a fellow Giants fan on her page today. I still feel that I like the way we're building because you've seen it with Tampa, you've seen it with the Rams. Short-term reward, but then things get hard right after when you overcompensate for bringing in a player like that. I will say this, he brings a phenomenal dynamic and excitement to the in-house rivalry of the Jets and Giants, and that is a game that I am very interested in potentially attending. It brings just a great spice and atmosphere to two teams that, yes, they only play each other once every 4 years, but it's very exciting. It is going to be very, very exciting to see the Jets and Giants with this new dynamic. And it kind of brings back the 2011 vibes when they took one of our own, Plaxico Burress. That was a playoff game, essentially, an interconference playoff game, something you never see, where an AFC team and an NFC team are going head-to-head in the regular season. Loser is eliminated from the playoffs. Winner has a chance to continue. Ultimately, the Giants won the East in the final game of that particular season against your Dallas Cowboys and went on to win their 4th Super Bowl. God, I'm so excited. Let's get going. We got the Carolina Panthers at 1, and I will be selecting odd number picks. So I am going first. Bear with me. Let me just open this up here.
And while you're talking about it, or bringing it up, we'll talk about the Carolina Panthers. They didn't once own this pick.
No,
they had to maneuver their way up to it by trading away 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and DJ Moore. So technically 3 first-round picks to move up from 9 to 1. And of course, the Chicago Bears, not needing a quarterback, said absolutely.
They'll take the assets because they have their man, quarterback-driven league. and they have the person who they believe is their guy in Justin Fields.
And now going to Carolina, obviously when you trade up to a position to the number 1 pick, it's usually for a quarterback. So you're here, but I will say you do have an offer on the table.
Let's hear it.
You had a few of them, but this was the best one I found, and it is from the Las Vegas Raiders. They are interested. They want to trade up. They want to get their quarterback.
Okay.
So they are offering the number 7 pick in this year's draft, 2nd round pick, number 38 in this year's draft, 4th round pick, number 100, number 141, a 1st in next year's draft, and a 2nd in next year's draft. And they are trying to move up for a quarterback.
How you doing, Coco? Good to see you here, dear.
Now, yeah, like I said, you had to give up 3 firsts and 2 seconds. So, in my honest opinion, I don't think you should do this trade.
I'm with you, because if you did all this to get up to the 1 pick, it's because there's a player that you want. You want to know his name? You want to know his college? His name is Bryce Young, and he went to Alabama.
Bryce Young off the board.
Bryce Young
Carolina Panthers
is off the board, and hopefully the Carolina Panthers can finally figure out their situation, because, man, they have not been able to get that quarterback for quite some time.
Indeed. And, you know, I'm excited about it because I think he fits that system very well with Frank Wright. You brought in Miles Sanders to come in there and be your bell cow, you know, and you also brought in guys like Adam Thielen, and
you've got
some good talent.
You've got quality veterans that is a very friendly transition when you're leaving the collegiate game, going to the pro game.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited about. And, you know, it's nice to see Carolina get this guy. I think Bryce Young fits very well into that system. I think what he brings, he is a small guy, but he walks like he's 6'5". He leads by example, you know, and that's something that I like about this kid a lot. So, yeah, I can't argue with this one.
And I know Alabama quarterbacks have not had the best track record in the NFL. A lot of times it's almost like you're surrounded by 5-star athletes. Then when you get to the NFL, you realize that everybody is a 5-star athlete, so to speak. Different game speed, a lot of different things. I mean, shoot, if you want to really take it back, the last great Alabama quarterback, if you really want to break it down, was actually Joe Namath.
Some people would argue and say Jalen Hurts.
Still early in the game.
But
God forbid if his career ended prematurely, you can't call him great yet, but he's definitely trending in that direction. You're up, Zappy, pick 2.
I claim him an OU guy just because that's where he graduated from. But Houston is on the clock here. They wanted Bryce Young. They are not getting Bryce Young, obviously. So Houston's actually in a very interesting situation here because there's the rumor talks about them being infatuated with Will Levis. There's talks about them not liking CJ Stroud anymore. And there's talks about, well, you brought in a guy like DeMeco Ryans and you should draft a guy like Will Anderson to come in and be your anchor on the defensive side of the ball for many years to come. This is an opportunity. The Texans also have the number 12 pick.
Yes.
For that reason, because of all the uncertainty going on right now, nothing says that you have to take a quarterback. If there is not a quarterback you don't like, you don't reach. That's how you end up as the Cleveland Browns, or that's how you end up at other teams because they reached. The Houston Texans are going Will Anderson at number 2 this year. I think he is a guy. He has DeMeco Ryans written all over him. I believe he's a guy that's going to come out and just. I think he's going to be a terror in this league, man. I really do.
Crimson Tide starts off with the first 2 players drafted from their university.
That's right. And, you know, and for a team like Arizona, this upsets them because they were thinking that they were going to get a quarterback, that being Houston, and Will Anderson would be there for the taking. So now it's one of those where if you're Arizona, what are you going to do? Are you going to listen to some calls? Because you have 7 calls right now.
7 calls. Read something to me. Let's hear this.
Well, you have a call from the number 7 Raiders, number 8 Falcons, the number 9 Chicago Bears. Interesting. Number 11 Tennessee Titans. We know Tennessee needs a quarterback.
Yes, they do.
Number 23, Minnesota Vikings. I already told you about them and how much they are in love with a certain quarterback.
Okay.
And then Jacksonville 24. That's the interesting one. So you have all these teams calling. Now you have to ask yourself, are you wanting to move back?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. This is a team that's not going to be competing for a while. So I would tend to believe that if you get the right package, you move back. But if you get the player that you really feel is going to be a changer and building something different for a failing program, then you go get your player. If I'm Arizona, personally, I would trade back because a lot of this being upfront stuff is all about the quarterbacks. It's a quarterback-driven league. Having said that, I'm going to pick a player here. And I'll tell you who I'm going with. I'm going Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. I think that he's going to be a dominant corner in this league.
Yeah, I think he's going to be really good. I don't necessarily think he's going to compare as a Sauce Gardner, but I think he's going to be a cornerback that is going to be starting in this league for 10 to 12 years. You know, he's got a lot of great ball skills. I think he could come into any defense and really kind of take away half of the field.
And they could have got some edge rushers here, but in a pass-happy league, I'm leaning towards a team like that and a division that they play in going for the corner.
That's good, interesting, because I really thought you were going to go with Tyree Wilson on that one. But here we are, number 4, the Indianapolis Colts. It is a dream scenario for them. They have the rest of the quarterbacks. They have the rest of the quarterbacks here looking at them. You know, we know they like Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
There was talk that they like C.J. Stroud. He kind of fits with the Colts, the head coach does. Then there's also Anthony Richardson sitting right there. They're not going to listen to any trades on this one. They need a quarterback, and I think they're going to get their guy. And believe it or not, the Colts are drafting Will Levis at number 4.
I don't mean to be an asshole because I wish all these young men well. Bust alert.
C.J. Stroud, in my opinion, is the bust of this year's draft.
I actually said that too. I have a feeling that neither one of these kids are going to get to the heights that the team drafting them hopes for. But once again, Ohio State quarterbacks haven't had the best track record in this league either.
Will Levis is going to have a better career than Daniel Jones.
We shall see. We shall see, sir. I am of the opinion that Daniel Jones might be hoisting a Lombardi in less than 3 years. Some people might laugh at me. It's all good. It's what I believe. I have such fondness for this regime in Giants football right now that I feel very good about the future.
Well, you can feel good about it all you want. All we know is right now, you're on the clock.
And this is easy. This is easy. 2 words, Pete Carroll. Similar to your Dallas Cowboys in the 90s, I always liken this to Pete Carroll running that USC program, a little bit controversially. Obviously, we know the talent that a young man out of UGA is. We know about the off-the-field situation. We know about his need to grow up, mature, and take this opportunity because it truly is an opportunity of a lifetime. When I look at the Seattle Seahawks, I do see that they could potentially go quarterback here because Geno Smith is not no spring chicken. But having said that, I just don't think you could ignore the talent that is Jalen Carter. I am going Jalen Carter here at this pick for the Seattle Seahawks. And I think it makes a lot of sense because this is such a physical division, and I think he's a player that can really make an impact immediately coming into the league.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, as more time has passed, the whole talk about Jalen Carter falling, I don't think he's going to fall that far, especially when you're a team like Seattle or a team like Detroit. They're at 5-6, where these are really your seasons to go all in. And you bring in a guy like Jalen Carter, he's only going to help what you're building on that defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I have Detroit next, and obviously if you didn't take him, I was going to.
I know where you should go here. I want to see if you agree with me.
Oh, I think it's very obvious here.
Pair him with the stud from Michigan. Let's see what you got to say about this.
Well, I was going to say you traded away Jeffrey Okudah.
Mm-hmm.
You need to. Your
Oh, okay.
secondary needs to be fixed.
Okay. Damn it! The Twins just took the lead on the Yanks again. Sorry about that.
You're
Go
good.
ahead, buddy.
You have Hutchinson and you have Houston there as your two guys that are rushing the quarterback. So really, it's like you can go after a guy like Tyree Wilson and bring him in there. I think a guy you need to go after. I know you're going to say Calijah Cancey, but I think it's Devon Witherspoon.
I respect that pick, and Illinois going to the Detroit Lions, neighbors essentially. I think it's safe, and I also think it's a necessary pick because, as you already alluded to, they moved on from 2 corners this offseason.
Yeah, and we saw their pass defense last year. I mean, they were getting torched a lot of the time. Their defense did improve throughout the year, but fact is, when you have yourself a premier pass rusher, which I believe Aiden Hutchinson is going to be,
Indeed.
You still need a cornerback to be back there to cover, and why not have a couple of them? They have good pass rushers, and this is kind of too early to take a middle linebacker, so that's why I think right now this is good for them. So Devon Witherspoon is off the board.
Indeed, he is. This is an interesting one. So you got the Vegas Raiders coming up. This is a team that acquired Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason. So at least for a couple of years, you're good at quarterback. You got that New England connection reuniting. Okay, we get that. This is interesting because I look at a team that while Jimmy G does have a nice winning percentage, and he's only a couple of years removed from a Super Bowl appearance, more recently an NFC title game defeat, which he could have and should have won. Yes, the Raiders are going to have to think about quarterback of the future. That goes without saying. I think about their scheme. I think about what they do. I think about some of the uncertainties. They are a talented team. Last year, they were an underachieving team. Who is the player, if they do decide to go quarterback, that can make an impact, that is coachable, that can learn from a proven veteran like a Jimmy Garoppolo? There are a couple of names here that I'm viewing, but I'm going SEC here. I think they're going to go quarterback at this pick, and I think they're going Anthony Richardson out of the University of Florida, and I like this pick. I do. I really like this pick.
He has Raiders written all over him.
I tend to believe that.
He really does, and I don't know, there's something about him. I like this kid a lot. Especially after watching him in the combine, it was impressive what he put on. But we already saw this throughout the year. This kid can play the position, but there's just something about like imagining him wearing that silver and black. I think he fits perfectly.
And they didn't make the right dent, so to speak, initially in Vegas. You got in the playoffs, but you unfortunately had that stuff with John Gruden that set the organization back. Then you have the tragedy with regard to the Henry Ruggs vehicular homicide situation. Last year, an underachieving season. You even had that incident with Devontae Adams on the Monday night game for the world to see. It's just been, for lack of a better word, a shit show with Vegas since they've moved there. This is the year that I think that they can start putting some foundational pieces down to get back to their glory, because they are one of the most revered franchises in the NFL, like them or not. I like this pick, and I actually do think that they are going to go this route. We shall see. You are up, Zappy, with the Atlanta Falcons.
And I will say this before I pick for Atlanta. I think Anthony Richardson is the dark horse to actually go number one. While we heard reports today that the Carolina Panthers now have a unanimous choice, they did not say who it is, and most people are speculating that it is Bryce Young. I would not be surprised if Anthony Richardson is this year's quarterback that comes out of nowhere and goes number one. We saw it with Baker Mayfield, and how did that turn out? We saw it with Kyler Murray as well. We see it often with the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think that pick makes sense. If you're the Raiders and you can get them there at 7, I think that's a win. So, but as far as number 8 goes with the Atlanta Falcons, I think this is a very interesting situation here because
their quarterback's not exactly set in stone.
It's not.
Gives me the Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray vibes, to be honest.
Absolutely. And when I think of CJ Stroud, I think of a guy that you never thought would drop to you at number 8.
Indeed.
But with all these reports coming out of him, it's almost as he's going to drop out of the top 5 for sure. Now, does he drop to number 11, or will he drop even down to 14 to the Patriots? So it's like one of those where
they're not exactly pleased with Mac Jones. So they're
not.
As well.
So, and then you could also talk about the Bucks at 19, or you could talk about the Minnesota Vikings at 23. So this CJ Stroud's going to drop. But I think right now, if you're Atlanta, you already know you don't like Desmond Riddler. You know you have a young team that's improving. So you have to go get CJ Stroud. So with the 8th pick, I'm taking CJ Stroud. He's coming to Atlanta, and he's going to be my future quarterback.
So you go with CJ Stroud. So basically, and this is the other thing about this. Selecting a player like that doesn't necessarily mean that you get rid of Ridder. It's similar to like a 49er situation where you got a Trey Lance and you got a Brock Purdy, guys who are under rookie deals and team control for a little bit. So it's not like the kind of situation where you got to move on just because he's not the starter. You know, you get an injury, the other guy, they compete. It's a healthy competition, so to speak. So there are positives about an outcome like that. Zappy, this is certainly possible. I don't know if it's going to play out this way, but I will say it's definitely possible.
I really do feel like it is. I think this is going to be a draft where normally we're so used to seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 go quarterback, but this could very well be a draft where it's number 1, then number 4, where we're going to see some guys drop. And then we got to think about, are there teams that really do love Anthony Richardson that are going to trade up and give up the farm, you know?
You don't want to ever discriminate against players because of the universities they come from, but track records do tend to happen for a reason. Are you scared off, if you're them or any team for that matter, taking a quarterback out of Ohio State? They are another university that, while dominant at the collegiate level and winning all kinds of big-time games, that their quarterbacks don't always necessarily transfer into excellent NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's an obvious thing, but the only thing is you have to also look at the times where it was Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, and now they're under a completely different coach. So there's that aspect to take from it. You know, but then the same could be said about the University of Florida. While they've had a lot of success at the collegiate level, when a lot of the players have not exactly transitioned to the NFL, the exception would be Cam Newton, who he actually had himself a miraculous career. Rex Grossman, he did get the Bears to the Super Bowl, but I still give that credit more towards that defense and what they had. So there's many of these we could talk about, you know, but it's a possibility, man. It really is. And either way, you're the Chicago Bears and you're on the clock, sir.
To me, this, in my opinion, this pick could go a couple of different ways. You have tight end quality that you can combine with a Cole Kmet. That is an understated thing that not too many team has, that you have 2 pass-catching tight ends that can make an impact. Those are awesome security blankets for a young quarterback like a Justin Fields. You have a defense that has much room to improve. There are a lot of ways this team could go, but I'm going to tell you the way I believe they're going to go. In my opinion, the second most talented defensive lineman in this beginning of the draft, I'm going Calijah Kancey out of Pittsburgh for the Chicago Bears.
Wow, and you actually had a good trade offer. You didn't let me get it to you. Calijah Kancey off the board at number 9.
Once again, this is another
Chicago
team.
Bears.
They traded back. I just don't see them trading back further.
I do.
They're in a North division that it's not out of the question that they could win.
Right. No, but the reason why is I think by trading back, and if you're able to acquire another second, then you are really positioning yourself, because the deal only had them trading back 3 spots. And that was you could have still got Cancey there at 12, in my opinion.
At any rate,
it was Houston on the phone. But he's off the board, and that now leaves the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock.
We even have to talk about these guys.
Oh, yes, we do, sir. Unfortunately, we do. As much as I don't want to, it's the right thing to do. And, you know, here we are, this Eagles team that there's a couple of players I do not want to see on this team. I do not want to see Bijan Robinson on this
Goes
team.
without saying. Neither do I. And there is an opening for him with the departure of Miles Sanders.
There is, but they did bring in Rashad Penny, kind of negating the need of a running back where they can wait.
Coming off an injury, though.
Coming off an injury, absolutely. But they still had 2 good running backs. But their biggest issue right now is on the defensive side of the ball.
I tend to agree.
was dominant, and they they were able to get to the quarterback. They lost Javon Hargrave. They have players that are a year older, and Fletcher Cox, and so, wow, could not get that one out. And Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett's coming up on his contract here, so you got to get yourself a defensive lineman. You need a defensive end. They also need help in the secondary. This is a scenario that, while they were not expecting it to happen, both Devon Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez are off the board. So now you have to look at what's next. I honestly think this team is going to be looking at 3 players here, and that's going to be Jackson Smith and Jigma, Nolan Smith, and Miles Murphy. I think it's going to come down to those 3. And I think the one guy that makes the most sense, and also because of the combine he put up and because of his speed, I believe Nolan Smith will be the pick here for the Philadelphia Eagles at number 10.
That's a damn good player, dude.
Yeah, he's a damn good player, man. And that's another guy I don't want to see there, but 4'3", 240. You talk about explosion for a defensive end when you're running faster than wide receivers. That is disgusting.
Yeah, indeed.
You're gonna need a tackle that has a quick first step to keep up with that. But oh man, that just put him on that defense. And to get to learn from some of those veterans around him, I think will benefit him greatly. Wow.
And before we move along from the Philadelphia Eagles, as we know, they were kind of linked to Derrick Henry. I've seen conflicting reports as recently as today that are saying that that's just not going to happen. But having said that,
it wasn't true. There was never even talks.
But having said that, I'm still not convinced that Derrick Henry is going to be in a Titan uniform for the foreseeable future. Is this where the Titans could potentially go the route of picking up a player like a Bijan Robinson? Because when you look at a team that, yes, we do understand that they do need a quarterback more than likely, but they also have a running back that's not going to be there forever, and that is a big part of their MO. That's a big part of what they do. This is a team with holes. It's not just one particular place where they need to get better. There are quite a few holes on this particular football team. I'm going to go the safe route here. And I'm sure that there are going to be some people in Pittsburgh that are going to be cursing about this move. I tend to believe that although this team needs a quarterback and they could even improve on both parts of the offensive line, interior and on the outside, I have a hunch that this team is going to Penn State and they are going to bring in Joey Porter Jr., who has the potential, in a best case scenario, to have an impact like a Sauce Gardner, more so than Christian Gonzalez, who I had going first. But that is just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think they're going to go this route, and I think it's going to piss off a lot of people because I don't think anybody wishes that organization on this kid, because this kid's going to be a friggin' stud.
Wow. Joey Porter over Jackson Smith and Jigba was sitting right there waiting for you.
He was
for you. You need a left tackle. You just had Taylor Lewan retire. You need a left tackle.
He hung him up. I'm aware.
And Skoronski's there, which I still think he's going to be a guard. But more importantly, you have Paris Johnson there. Oh, wow. Interesting pick. I like it.
Do you actually like it, though?
Yeah, and here's why. Because this Tennessee Titans team, while they've been known for running the ball offensively, they've been known for having good defenses, while their secondary was a bit suspect at times.
That's part of my motivation. For that.
You got to keep your defense.
Dude, this is a division that passes now. You got to deal with Trevor Lawrence. I have a feeling Indy's going to be stretching out the field a little more, trying to be more of an entity going down the field. And believe it or not, I don't think the Houston Texans are as bad as everybody else thinks. I think they're going to be more than competitive this year. That's my pick, though. We'll see if it comes.
Interesting. I like it. Well, this is a situation now where you talked about the Houston Texans, and lo and behold, here they are on the board.
From the Cleveland Browns, just letting the viewer know. Rip away, just letting the viewer know.
So they tried trading up. Obviously, the Bears did not want to listen. The Bears said, nope, we're going to go out there. We're going to draft Calijah Kancey. And the Texans were trying to trade up because they did not think that this player was going to drop to them. They thought for sure that probably their division rival in the Titans or even the Philadelphia Eagles were going to take Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, he's still hanging around.
So you're Houston. You're not taking a quarterback. There's no one here but maybe Hendon Hooker. But there's still 2024, and Caleb Williams is still out there, who's going to be next year's number one pick. And Houston, you might just land in that position again. So why not go get him the weapon now, or go get your weapon for the quarterback today? Jackson Smith-Njigba, he is now.
Yeah, you invested all that money in Deshaun. Why not? You invested all that money in Deshaun. Let's get him some help over there.
Oh, man. So now what we have here is the trade that you spoke of very briefly. What once belonged to the New York Jets now belongs to the Green Bay Packers, as if a part of that deal was the two teams swapping.
Pappy, sorry to interrupt you. Can you please spell this young man's name? I already selected him on my board.
Who's that? Oh, Jackson Smith?
Yes, please.
All right, so Jaxon.
Mm-hmm. Hyphen.
No. And then Smith is Smith hyphen.
Oh, that's what the hyphen is. Okay.
And then
Ngiba, correct?
No, Njigba.
Oh, I would never spell this correctly if I had to. All right. Thank you, sir. He is going to the Houston Texans.
And then, and it's an obvious need after they.
I meant the Cleveland Browns. I'm so confused. Cleveland Browns, Houston Texans. I'm over here talking about Deshaun Watson.
I know. I thought you said that as a joke.
Yeah. I honestly was able to confuse myself with the 2-year absence and Deshaun. So my apologies, guys. I got a little brain twisted, and I know who's picking next.
So you got the Packers, as we already know. They traded away Aaron Rodgers. You have Jordan Love at the helm. Are you going all in on Jordan Love, or is there a quarterback you take here? Or are you going to go wide receiver, perhaps tight end, defensive line? You have a lot of positions you can go for. But the fact is, you now are up for there 2 more picks than what you were yesterday before the day started.
This is an organization that has 2 quality running backs in A.J. Dillon as well as Aaron Jones. But this is also an organization that lost a quality tight end in Robert Tonyan, also Mercedes Lewis, if I'm not mistaken. He's a Jet now, along with recently departed Aaron Rodgers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So this is a team that needs a tight end. However, this is also a team that Jones only signed a 1-year deal with. Do the Packers surprise everybody and go Bijan and get the best running back in this particular draft to take some of the heat and alleviate some of the pressure off a first-year starter? I'm going to say no. I think the tight end is the security blanket here. And when I look at what's to offer, you have 2 quality ones. But for this particular team and the way that they do things, I think Dalton Kincaid is the pick here, tight end out of Utah.
Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah. I like it because, really, I think the Packers are in a situation where
they could have won Michael Mayer here too.
They could have gone Michael Mayer, but you saw Jackson Smith dropping. They could have gone his route. They could have gone another receiver.
They do have a nice little slew of receivers, even between Doubs and Watson.
Yeah, they do, but they could still use another. There's no question about it. They could still use a true number 1.
The first pick after the Aaron Rodgers era. I can't believe Aaron Rodgers is a Jet, man. I knew it was coming, but once you hear it, it's still weird.
I know, it's crazy. I wonder what your dad would think about it.
He would be happy. God rest his soul.
I know, and I can't wait to hear John's opinion about the trade while he's still having a good time.
Yeah, he's out in Panama, I believe. Yeah, he's having a great time out there. Good for him.
Good for him, absolutely. But oh man, either way, Dalton Kincaid is now a Green Bay Packer. I have Brett's New England Patriots.
Yep.
Brett's former favorite team, New England Patriots, because his new favorite team is picking here at number 15.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. That would never happen, though. He hates the Jets. I know the Jets with every fiber of his being, but that's funny, though.
I would think most Bills fans hated the Patriots, too, but here we are. So I will say that. Anyway.
Fired.
Anyways, I love you, Brett. All right, so you have the New England Patriots, who are now the 4th best team in the AFC East. Not the AFC, the AFC East.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's been a long time since we could say that and mean it.
Exactly. And so now, you look at yourself and you say, is there a quarterback here worth taking? We know about the disconnect with Mac Jones and Bill Belichick. We also know about the high praise they have in Bailey Zappy. And you look at yourself, is Hendon Hooker the guy you want to take here to be the heir apparent finally to?
It's intriguing. That's an intriguing pick.
It is a very intriguing one. It is. But I think one thing also with Mac Jones was there was times where he didn't have time to throw the ball.
Yes.
So you've got to protect him. And you also got to look at the defense and say, you know, are there players out there that can come into this defense and really improve on what they have? Because they have a very good defense. Let's get that straight.
They always have a good defense, regardless of who's playing offense. Bill Belichick, say what you want. People try to dilute his legacy. He's done some of that on his own with some of the allegations. But in terms of X's and O's and just being a phenomenal head coach, the man knows how to put together a defense, bottom line. And even when they're missing pieces, they're still competing at a pretty good level.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And, you know, I like it, man. I like how he runs that team, and I don't care what.
And I hate the Patriots, but I'll say that
I do too. Oh, I hate them with a passion.
But I love that picture behind me.
But there's one thing with this Patriots team. I think to myself, if you could team up another guy that can get to the quarterback with Matthew Judon, don't you think that would be a fun thing to watch? You know,
not to mention that's how you're going to have to win a lot of these games.
Yeah, I think so. So I think there's two guys in mind here for me. And that's Myles Murphy and that's Paris Johnson. These are the two guys I'm looking at here for the Patriots. And
yeah, both of them serve a completely different purpose, but both of them are going to be effective day one starters.
Absolutely. And you know what, though? I have to protect my quarterback. I have to know if Mac Jones is my answer or if Bailey Zappy is my answer.
Either way, you need somebody.
I need to have somebody. And why not? And if I'm drafting the quarterback next year's draft,
I'm so confident that I'm already typing the name because I think I know where you're going.
Oh, you know where I'm going. I'm going to The Ohio State University, Paris Johnson. He is the new starting left tackle for the New England Patriots, who made a living of having great offensive lines during their Super Bowl runs in the 2000s.
They most certainly did, and that's been a staple of what they've done for so long. I like the pick, Zappy. I do. I like the pick.
I think it's a great one. And you know what's crazy is they had Peter Skoronski there.
Yeah, very versatile player. Very versatile.
Very versatile. But what separated Skoronski and is the wingspan, but which is crazy because the last time we had a left tackle that had less than 33-inch arms was actually Matt Light of the New England Patriots. So that'd be crazy if Skoronski gets drafted there. While they already had success with one guy with short arms, but I still think Skoronski's better fit for a left guard. So you have to solidify the left tackle position, and that's why I went Paris Johnson here.
Don't flick me off and don't curse me out on the air, but you're not going to be happy with the guy that I'm about to pick for the New York Jets. New York Jets right now are essentially arriving to the table. They have an opportunity to be a Super Bowl contender. Oh, man, I was so locked in that I missed this. Not too much in on my Patriots. It's going to be all right. You guys have 6.
Hey. Now we're seeing Patriots fans. And I asked, so when I was playing that tournament the other night, I asked one of the dealers because he's a huge Patriots fan. I was like, hey, man, I was like, I know you haven't had a fan ask you this in a long time, but how does it feel to be the worst team in your division again?
Dude, I'd have to think about this a little further. I know in 90 they were 1-15 and they were horrific. I don't remember them finishing last outside of 90 most recently. It may have happened in the Carroll era, but I don't remember because the Carroll era was
I don't think it happened in the Carroll era.
I don't think it did. It was a short window in between Parcells and Belichick, but I don't recall it happening either. To the New York Jets, this is a team, as I said, they're arriving to the table. This is a team with Aaron Rodgers. They have an excellent defense. Breece Hall coming off that injury, he's still going to be a problem, as well as young receiver Garrett Wilson. They have a nice foundation there to be a winner and should immediately be a Super Bowl contender in all sincerity. Cincinnati Bengals, from a talent standpoint, even though you got Joe Cool there, Joe Cool 2.0, I think that they lost a lot of key players. The Kansas City Chiefs are the kings of the mountain until somebody takes that from them. Buffalo Bills have a shrinking window to win a Super Bowl. The Jets are in the mix, but I do think that they need a complementary offensive piece to what they're already bringing. And let's be real, the tight end that came over with Aaron Rodgers isn't exactly a superstar. He's one of his boys. Michael Mayer, tight end out of my favorite university, the new University of Notre Dame. I've got Michael Mayer going to the Jets. I think it's a great pick. I think it makes all kinds of sense.
Ooh, you didn't go protect your newly acquired quarterback in Aaron Rodgers.
I'll be honest with you.
You just made number 8 really upset with you there. Come on, Robert Saleh. You just made your newly acquired quarterback very upset. Same story.
I'll be honest with you. I actually don't think the Jets O-line is all that terrible.
No, it's not. It's really not. But still, I just had
and it hurts me to say that because I don't have much love for Gangrene. But I try to be objective and fair on my show.
But I like the pick, and it wouldn't surprise me because if there's one thing throughout Aaron Rodgers' career, when he's had very good seasons, he's had a very reliable tight end.
I know you want this guy too, so it kind of was fun to take.
No. There are many players. That's what I like about being a 26 as opposed to 18, because 26 is a second-round player. 18 is very likely to be a first-round player, So if I'm the Detroit Lions, I'm upset about this pick. Because you traded away TJ Hawkinson last year, so that'd be a nice consolation.
Well, yeah, they haven't
bring
quite.
In Michael.
Yeah, they haven't quite replaced that, but man, that's my pick to win the NFC North. And I've actually got the Bears potentially finishing second. I have a feeling the Minnesota Vikings are going to go backwards. We shall see.
Yeah, and I agree with it. So
they were one of the most fortunate teams in the history of the NFL last year. I'm just going to put it like that. Say it what I think.
That's all good. I love the pick. I think Michael Merrick goes into that system very well. I think it's a very good compliment.
Nathaniel Hackett's system, absolutely. I think he goes in there rather well.
I think that's a good pick, which puts Washington, the Commanders, on the board. This team was hoping that Joey Porter was going to fall right into their lap.
That didn't happen because of me.
That did not happen. This team was hoping that one of the very talented quarterbacks might fall to them.
I see a local that you might reach for, but that could fit the narrative of what they need or the belief of what they need. I see a local.
Oh, local. I'm Washington. I'm going to go best player available here.
Yeah, you got to.
I was able to keep my best defensive player and not let him leave for free agency. We have a lot of things there offensively that are in place, but we still don't have a quarterback. But there's no one here I want to take. That, especially for a guy that Ron Rivera, that is kind of trying to save his job.
Yeah, he's close to being done. They didn't promote Eric Bieniemy with that assistant head coach title if they didn't have intentions of moving on from Riverboat Ron.
Exactly. But this team needs help on their offensive line.
I think so.
Peter Skoronski's there. He comes and fills the need. He can come in and play left guard for you. He can come in and play center for you. He can come in and play left tackle for you. Peter Skoronski is the pick at number 16 for the Washington Commanders.
I think it's
this
safe.
guy can come in, and it's a safe pick. Yeah, and there's really, like I said, you could have gone Hendon Hooker here, but I don't think, because he's coming off of that ACL injury, Hendon is better suited to a team where he can wait that year and heal completely.
And the thing is, they do want to give Sam Howell an honest opportunity. I actually do believe that they want to give that kid an honest opportunity.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And, Sam Howell at one point was considered a top 5 draft pick in his respective draft class, but then he had a bad following senior season that had his draft stock drop, So it's just one of those that it happens in the NFL. But I think Sam Howell is actually going to be a pretty successful quarterback. But it's one of those, is he as successful a guy that's going to get you to second place in the division, winning occasionally and making it to the playoffs here and there, or do you want someone that's going to come bring you that Super Bowl? And Sam Howell's not that guy.
We are just over halfway home. Only 31 teams are picking in this year's first round. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be on the clock next. When we return, we are going to take a short intermission before we come back and finish out our day 1 mock draft part 2. Zappy, how do you like the way this played out? Did you see any legitimate surprises? Did you see some reaches? Were you like, why Richie? Why with Joey Porter Jr. going to the Tennessee Titans?
Well, actually, let's focus on that position itself. I thought 1 and 2 between Bryce Young and Will Anderson were exactly how it's going to go. Arizona taking Christian Gonzalez was the first surprise for me, especially when they could have gone Jalen Carter. They could have gone Tyree Wilson. I think them being at number 3 and having other needs more that are bigger than a cornerback, I think that was a bit of a reach for them. I mean, possibly trading back and getting Christian, then I could see that. But that's one I think is a reach. And then I think
I don't think you were too endeared with my pick with Chicago taking Calijah Cancey out of Pitt.
No, I like it because you traded away your defensive players last year. You need the anchor.
I meant in the sense that you could have went back on the trade.
Yeah, no, and they could have traded back as well. The one position I would have looked at there would have been going after a tackle to protect Justin Fields because you brought in the weapons.
Yes.
You brought in the weapons. Now you need to know if he's the guy. We know they can run the ball. They were the number one team in running last year. We know they're going to run the ball. But if he has the time to throw the ball and actually stay in that pocket and survive in this NFL, he needs that tackle position covered. You need your blind side protected, So that's the only way. But going defensive line, I think, also fits the Chicago Bears nice because they're starting over on the defensive side of the line.
Yeah, because they've always been known for that. And last year, it was not the kind of brand of Chicago Bears football that you're used to seeing.
Yeah, it really wasn't. So but like I said, I don't mind that pick. I think that's a good pick. But yeah, the other one would be Joey Porter to the Titans. And while we talked about the positives that come out of it, because keep a strength, I still think there's things where you can get a Jackson Smith and Jigba to come in there and team up with last year's first round pick and Treylon Burks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the two of those together would be nice. And then also it's a position where we know they don't like Malik Willis.
But just because you don't like him doesn't mean you reach and get the wrong guy.
It doesn't mean you reach and get the wrong guy. Absolutely.
Then you compound the problem. I did want to say this, though. I think the Raiders, Anthony Richardson, if that pick of mine comes to fruition, I actually think, and this might be a reach and a half, I have a feeling that with the exception of the number one pick in Bryce Young, who I do have a decent amount of faith in, I actually think that Anthony Richardson's going to have a very good career and could go down as potentially the most successful in this draft class.
Yeah, I think I agree on that statement, man. I think Anthony Richardson is really the guy, and I really think we're going to see teams like Tennessee, the Raiders, try to trade up, and even Minnesota.
Yes, I did think about this because Minnesota, given the age of Kirk Cousins, obviously the Raiders have a winner in Garoppolo, but it's going to be, limited time moving forward until he takes, a step back. It's father time. And when I look at all of this, the Titans, you said, I would have to say that could potentially happen where the Raiders wouldn't get him. But I don't know what it is. I just have this legitimate vibe that the Raiders are drafting this young man.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's assuming he drops to number 7. That's just assuming that. But if he's there at 7, I believe he will.
I'll tell you who I think should get him. The Colts. But I have a feeling the Colts are going to take Will Levis.
You know why?
I think it's the wrong pick.
And the reason why I think they're taking Will Levis is because it's the safe pick.
So they say. I think Richardson I see Richardson as just a really good player for a long time. I have very high aspirations for this young man. We shall see how it plays out. We're going to take a short intermission. We will be back soon for part 2 of the day 1 draft mock style. Zappy, good job as always. Thank you for watching, everyone, and we will be back shortly.